Now, we've made it our business to make sure when big acts get to town that we try and get them into the studio. Not always possible, but I'm very happy to say that Little Big Town, who are in Australia for a number of appearances, most notably at CMC Rocks Queensland, which starts on Friday at Willowbank and goes through Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and they're the headline performers on Saturday the 25th of March, which is coming up. So I welcome into the studio Philip, Kimberly, Karen and Jim. Guys, thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to us.
Thank you.
How long have you been in our beautiful country?
2 days.
2 days.
Do you think you'll stay?
Oh,
Sure we will.
We're just now getting over the jet lag.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that what we put on for you is what we call in Australia crook weather.
This is crook weather.
So if it happens to rain, at all, on Saturday, you can simply go on stage and say, "This weather is crook."
Yeah, we need those. We need to know your slang.
Right. Well, look, I've done this with everyone else because you're appearing in Sydney tomorrow night at the Enmore Theatre, which is a wonderful venue in the inner city. But when you get to Willowbank in Queensland for CMC, that's where country music really does happen. There's two places. There's Tamworth in New South Wales, which is the capital city, a bit like Nashville, and then there's Queensland. They'll come from hundreds of kilometres away to see you. And
Awesome.
They won't drive pickups, they'll drive utes.
Utes? What's a ute? Is it like a Jeep?
Where are you there, Phil?
Hello there, Ray.
Darling, how you going? No, it's a pickup, but it's called a ute.
It's called a ute.
Okay.
Okay.
So don't say, geez, there's a lot of pickups here.
We won't say
There's
that.
a lot of utes.
And the other thing you'll say is there's two football teams you've got to support while you're in Queensland.
Okay.
It's Brisbane, the Broncos.
The Broncos.
The Broncos, they're based in the capital, Brisbane. Or way up north at Townsville, which is a long way away, is the North Queensland Cowboys.
All right.
But isn't it better to not mention it? Because then you get... I mean,
you
that's
make-
like the cardinal rule.
No, I think you're pretty safe in Queensland mentioning either the Broncos or the Cowboys gently. Gently and jointly. You won't have any problem.
We don't want to get booed.
Hey,
We get our feelings hurt easy.
That would be crook.
Phil's onto it already. He knows what's crook. That would be crook. It would be crook.
Crook is
Or-
better than crikey.
Oh, God.
Is that not right?
Here comes the
Yeah,
stereotypical phrases.
Yeah, the funny thing is, hardly anyone says, except me,
Crikey.
because I'm an old bloke, says crikey. The other one they say
Crocodile
is,
Dundee ruined it for all of us.
exactly. Since Paul did it, no one does it. But the other one is that you can say, stone the crows.
Stone the crows. I've never heard that one.
Well,
Well,
does that mean?
that's like an exclamation. It's like a shock. Oh, stone the crows.
That's
Is
kind of
that-
like your O'Gussie.
like-
Day
Yes.
on the crows?
No.
Stone the
like
crows.
stones
I got to talk
Shut
to Karen.
the front door.
I got to talk to Karen. Look, I was talking to her outside, and I was talking about Daniel O'Donnell, who she loves, by the way.
Yes.
And I
Love
said
Daniel.
that he was big in Ireland and Europe. And then she looked at me. She said, "He's an Irishman of Italian descent."
No, I said he's. Well, I thought you said he's half Irish, half Italian. I don't know what I thought you said. I
But
couldn't
he sings
understand
country
you.
music.
And he sings country music. And then
I got to slow
confusing.
down.
I know. I was.
I got to slow
like,
down.
wow,
Now,
he's diverse.
you've been doing this for a relatively long time.
Yes, we have.
Country
Relatively,
music. How did you
yes.
all come together? Where did it all come from?
The
Who's
girls,
gonna make that?
the girls met in college.
Yeah. They've been long friends.
We've been friends for a long time, and both Georgia girls, and we had this crazy idea to start this band. And we grew up singing harmony with our families, and we met Jimmy first, and then knew that it was going to be the three of us, and really wanted to have a fourth member. And we saw Philip.
Yeah.
And he said he'd sing for free. So we said,
yeah.
come on in.
We held him to it. He's not made a dime since this whole thing started.
I met them in 97, right? Or 98.
98.
Yeah.
And it was just, we had an instant kinship in a way. It was really strange. I remember the first time I met Jimmy, we had dinner. I met the girls first and shared my music with them and at a Starbucks, actually.
Yes, we did.
And then I met Jimmy, and he met him like several weeks later at a dinner, and I felt like a long lost brother. We feel like we have this really unique connection right away. We felt it.
Well, just the fact that you've been together for so long, obviously the friendship has endured. Because it's one thing to, be in a band together or in a vocal group together. It's another thing to stay there together for almost 20 years. Because, I mean, I've been doing what I do for 35 years with a whole range of different people in the sporting sense with different teams, and you can tend to aggravate each other. I think the mark's about 10 or 12 years, and when you've been in the same studio and breathing the same air and talking the same things, you can say, well, you know, it's probably better if we don't see each other socially. I'm happy to work with you, but let's draw the line there. And there's probably people who say the same thing about me who've been in my teams. Right? But so you've endured.
Yeah, we're family.
Yeah.
I mean,
As long as the boys do what we say,
Yeah,
it's all fine.
just like a marriage.
I mean,
you know,
This is a tough,
and we are married.
This is a tough lady.
And
Yeah,
if somebody
She's a-
leaves,
You know what you say about Karen? She's a hard marker.
I like that.
Maka.
You sound like you're from Boston.
that
was not good.
That wasn't a good accent at all.
We're afraid if somebody leaves, we'll have to pay spousal maintenance. So we're gonna stay together.
right there.
Is that like alimony?
I think so.
I think it is. Or is it
Really
like
it is.
paying royalties to someone who leaves the band? Is that what it's all about?
Yeah,
That's
royalties.
Yeah, we're not going there.
We're in it together for sure, but we really have fun. You know, like we've lived a lot of life together, and so we can laugh a lot. We can hang out together, and we can laugh at ourselves, and also enjoy the moment, and not take ourselves too seriously.
When in the late 90s it started, could you possibly foresee that in October of 2014 you would become the newest members of the Grand Ole Opry? I mean, is that something that you sort of, even now, say, well,
It still feels
we're
like
doing
a dream.
well commercially, but to have that honour.
Yeah,
We
that
dreamed
was,
of it.
you know, the interesting thing about that story and that part of the story is that our very first performance as a band in front of human beings was at the Grand Ole Opry. That was, we had only been a band a few months, and our agent,
We'd just been singing in the living room.
yeah, we had never performed in front of anyone other than a few record executives and things like that. But our agent called and said, "Hey, there's been a cancellation on the Opry. Do you want to play tonight?"
You know how agents want to impress you
Yeah, they're
right
trying
off
to-
the bat, you know? And so we had a brand new agent, and he was excited about us, and somebody canceled at the Opry, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Do you guys want to play the Opry?"
We knew 3 songs, and we played all 3 of them that night.
We owned one guitar.
I hope they didn't start yelling more.
Yeah, that would have been
Go
bad,
back to
right?
the first one.
We'd had to repeat.
But it's, you know, it's cool because then full circle we became members, and it's the greatest honor, you know,
Well-
to be a part of that.
Look, I don't profess to know a lot about the history of the Grand Ole Opry, but I wouldn't think there'd be too many people whose first live performance was there and then got inducted into it.
Yeah.
I think we might have been
Might
the
be
first
it,
of that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Fairly unique.
It was incredible.
So where's home now for you collectively?
Nashville.
We live in Nashville.
You're all living in Nashville.
Based out of Music City.
Yeah.
So, and that's where the work is, I guess. And of course
Yeah.
you are now the resident act at the Ryman Auditorium, which I don't think's happened before either.
That's
Right.
a first.
That's a first.
It's, you know, and it's incredible because it's the Ryman's 125th anniversary of the building, and it's just such an iconic place, and it's a beautiful theater. I mean, it sounds incredible in there, and it's just, you can feel like the spirit of Patsy Cline or Elvis Presley, you know, the people that have walked before us in that place, you can feel it in there. And
It's the mother church of country
Yeah.
music, really.
Yeah.
truly, and you know, for us, it's just an incredible honor, and we're going to be we've done 2 shows already in February, and we'll finish 8 more shows for the rest of the year, and they're all going to be unique and have special guests, and it's just, we're so thrilled to share our music in this unique way.
Sometimes when I'm at home and I'm thinking, oh, I'm just relaxing, I Google vintage performances from the Grand Ole Opry.
Yeah.
And to see the people that have walked that stage.
Yeah.
It gives you goosebumps.
Oh, man,
you
it
know.
just, and obviously even more important, the people who are no longer with us, and see them performing, all the big names. And I remember watching recently the tribute to George Jones.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the headline acts that performed all his songs over a long period of time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we have a really good base of country music here. Obviously, it's not as big as the United States. We have a smaller population, 25, 26 million, but we sustain it with some really wonderfully talented men and women.
Absolutely.
And it started with a guy called Slim Dusty, who's no longer with us. He was the
Slim Dusty.
foremost Australian country music star of his day, starting in the 40s and 50s, doing tent shows basically. A bit like your shows now that you have the fairs.
Yeah,
Various
the fairs.
festivals, yeah.
Well, that's what he'd do. He'd travel around with his wife, Joy McKean, who's a great songwriter and entertainer, and his daughter's still doing it now, Anne Kirkpatrick. And then it went from there, and we have every year in January the Golden Guitars, which are in Tamworth, and that's an opportunity for the public to acknowledge the performances, and you got the best male artist, best female artist, and the best songs, all that type of thing. The same sort of award you have there. Speaking of that, the highlights, I mean, being elevated to the Grand Ole Opry, but also a Grammy Award. I mean,
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's one of those dreams
a
come
Grammy
true.
Award for singing about a pontoon boat. I mean, who would have thought of that? I think we'll cut a song about a pontoon boat and win a Grammy.
Win a Grammy.
Yeah.
And then your latest song that we were talking about, playing from your album, The Breaker, and I do a program as well as this program called the Country Music Countdown, which features the best of country music here and internationally. We goes to air on. I'll tell you how it happened. It goes to air on a Saturday night between 10 and midnight, right? This is the number one station in the country. This station we're working on at the moment, 2GB. We go to 4BC in Brisbane and about 48 other stations today across Australia. But the executive chairman of this station is not a fan of country music, okay? So I went to him with this idea and said, look, we should do this Country Music Countdown. And he said, no, we're not doing that. I said, don't be. His name's Russell Tate. He'd be listening at the moment because he now loves country music. Brings in a bit of money.
Hi,
to the
Russell.
station. Hi, Russell. Anyway, so he said, no. So all of a sudden there was a gap one time. Something happened and whoever was doing 10 till midnight. I said, there's a perfect gap for the Country Music Countdown. He said, you're stark raving mad. It won't rate, no revenue. So 2 surveys later, it's number one program on a Saturday night. We're a talk station. We beat the music stations playing their own.
Wow.
That's
That's
so
incredible.
cool.
All of a sudden, he's become an unabashed fan of country music because it brings in dollars and ratings, and all of a sudden, it's the best thing that ever happened.
That's
And good
cool.
music.
And
We get to
the
talk
people
to people
want
like
it.
Little Big Town, and this interview will be played on that program as well on Saturday night.
Yeah, so can we get on the
fantastic.
countdown show?
You're on it. Well, you're in the charts this week with the single, actually.
Better Man.
Better Man.
Sweet.
Oh,
Fantastic.
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
What
By
number
sheer
are we?
coincidence.
Do you know?
17 with a bullet.
17
Oh.
with a bullet.
Wow.
Fantastic.
But who's counting?
I
We
am.
are.
Well, and many weeks, it's a battle between the Australian artist and the international artist on who's number one. And I'm pretty sure, having listened to the song last week, Better Man will be there in the foreseeable future.
Thank
Well,
you.
Now,
thank
did you
you.
play Girl Crush from the last record?
Girl Crush, no.
No, okay.
Hang on, Danielle, producer, did I pay?
We won a Grammy for that one. It sounds like I'm name dropping and bragging, but I was just wondering if the fans,
I wonder
country
too.
fans, know that
Yeah,
song here.
right.
It
Girl
had a
Crush.
lot of action back home.
Well, let me say that we've been playing your songs on the countdown for the 3 years I've been doing it, and I'm sure Girl Crush
Yeah, it
was
was
one of them.
probably
Yes.
on it then, maybe.
Yeah, you were dropping names there. Bob.
I know.
Maybe.
Yeah, so
Just a little.
Ray, thanks for mentioning the Grammy, but you did miss one on the way through there.
Actually, I really just wanted to know. I wondered if they knew.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out our set list.
Tell us, yeah, that's what we're trying
Making
to
our
figure out,
set
the
list.
set list for the show.
You know what? You will be blown away by the reception you get on Saturday night, particularly.
Can't
This
wait.
is a big deal. CMC rocks Queensland. It's a big deal, and you'll be blown away by the reception you get.
We're so excited.
No, there'll be on. It won't be 3 songs. There'll be encores and encores.
We do know a few more songs now.
We've learned a few more over the years.
I thought since the 90s you might have put a couple of sticks together. So one of the things, and I mentioned to you outside and mentioned to our listeners on air, that we had this stellar period where promoters were able to convince Alan Jackson to come here, Toby Keith, Alan Jackson and of course Keith Urban tours
Yes.
We
regularly.
love Keith.
We
for
love Keith
obvious
so much.
reasons. He's a New Zealander. But we claim him as Australian because he's married to an Australian. And
There you go.
We
She's
claim them too.
I know. And he's a lovely man.
He's a
Yeah.
sweetheart.
He's a sweetheart.
Sure
and
is.
So is
if you
Nicole.
get the chance to ask him, he started in the band with Slim Dusty.
Oh, that's because he talks
I
about Slim
thought
Dusty.
that
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what
Wow.
he used to busk in Tamworth
Yeah.
as a young fella.
He
Yeah.
busked in Tamworth?
Yeah. He
What
What
does
does
that
that mean?
on the sidewalk.
Oh, yeah,
footplay.
played-
They call it,
Oh.
playing songs and getting money thrown in their hat.
Yeah, with his little,
Wow.
I saw a picture of him when he was a little
my
boy with a big old giant guitar he
Yeah.
would play, trying to play.
Anyway,
cool.
you got this he had a really top mullet back then. A really
I've
good
seen
mullet.
those.
Yeah,
I've seen
and
those
so
pictures.
Slim Dusty identified him initially for his brilliant guitar work, because he's obviously one of the foremost guitarists
yes.
in the world, and he would play in Slim's band, and then Slim ascertained he was a good vocalist as well, so he'd start doing songs and he was part of, not his band, but he was a special
Part of the
artist.
show.
Yeah,
That's
part of
so
the
cool.
show.
Well, you know,
And-
Keith was so kind to us and gave us our first big opportunity, opening in arenas, you know,
Yeah.
in the States and over and back home. So he's just an incredible human being.
Well, about 10 years ago, I have 3 daughters, 1 son, and one of my daughters is and was a great Keith Urban fan, so she would have only been about 10 or 11 at the time. And he came into the studio, like you guys have come in, and he was playing the Enmore Theatre, where you're going to play.
Oh, cool.
And I'd said to him, look, my daughter and her mum are going to come down and, be there for the show. And he said, really? He said, well, tell them to come backstage. I said, and so anyway, he said to his people, organise Emma, Ray's daughter, to come backstage. So this little blonde girl, 11, little skinny blonde girl, took a guitar and went inside. He signed the guitar to Emma, keep playing, keep dreaming.
Sweet.
And then he got his photo taken with her. And next time I saw him, I said, you didn't have to do all those things. And he said, she's a fan. I want to look after fans. And so he won me from that. I mean,
Sweet, yeah.
as a dad, you think, well, going to all that trouble. And he went to a lot of trouble to organise it. And then subsequently he comes in, he says, how are the girls going? And he's always
he's
very
Sweet,
personable.
yeah.
He's the
Yes.
best. I
Yeah,
mean,
lovely
he really
man.
is.
Anyway, look, what I was about to say is about all the other artists that have come here. We had that run of great American artists. Brooks and Dunn came here until, unfortunately, they weren't Brooks and Dunn anymore. But
I
and
think they're back to being Brooks and Dunn now.
In Las Vegas.
They
yeah.
didn't
In
want
Las
to pay
Vegas.
spousal maintenance.
they're much. Kimberly,
Ray, can
you're
I
a little-
please get where I can see you?
yeah, I can see you now, darling. You're a little.
There you
I can't
go.
see your sweet little mouth. I can't see your eyes. I got to come over here.
See, we've got computers between Kimberly and I.
You
made
can
nothing
see
but
your hair.
screens.
I mean, how could you
I
miss
I
that
made a
hair?
fatal mistake. It's beautiful head of hair.
That's all you can
I made
see.
a fatal mistake of telling her a story, a very personal story, and she's hammered me.
I'm sorry. I just think that's the funniest phrase. Spousal maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Funny. If you had a
I'm sorry.
mute,
Look at
I
him,
won't
he's-
say it
You-
again.
I did
You're
ask
making
her,
Ray
wait,
you're
blush.
muted.
No, I'm not blushing. I just asked her not to mention it. She now mentioned it 8 times. She's
I
a
won't
little
say
devil.
it again.
She is.
She's a little devil.
With a little smile.
Yeah, it's a lovely accent, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyway, the point being, you will love Australia. Australia will love you. Please make sure it's not the last time you return to our shores. I know we're a long way away.
Well, we are just getting
no, it's
started.
so much fun.
yeah,
and
we love
our
it.
friend Kelsey Ballerini came last year.
Yeah.
And then she fell in love with an Aussie.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? They're getting married.
Yeah. It happens to them. American girls come here and fall in love with.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work out, but some of them do come here and fall in love. We're going to play some music. Have a wonderful visit to Australia, little
Thank
big town.
you.
Thank you, Ray.
Kimberly. Thank you.